When I was younger, my house was always the main hangout spot for my group of friends. We had plenty of space, and my parents didn't mind us being loud. Out back, our property stretched into a long patch of woods that eventually connected to a surface trail leading into Yellowstone National Park. My parents always warned us not to go wandering too far, but of course, that just made it more tempting to do so. There were 5 of us that night. Me, my best friend Logan, plus our buddies Alex, Brent, and Mateo. It was early summer, still light out, and we were killing time in the basement playing pool and blasting music when Logan suggested we head out for a hike. Normally, we stuck to our backyard trails, but he wanted to go deeper, past the tree line, toward a section of Yellowstone we had never explored. It didn't take much convincing. We grabbed some flashlights, Brent stuffed a couple beers into his backpack, and we set off. The air was cool and damp from an earlier rain, and the woods smelled like pine and wet soil. We laughed and joked on the way, but I'll admit, I had a pit in my stomach. Even growing up next to Yellowstone, I'd always felt the forest had a weight to it at night, like something was awake and listening. So after about 30 minutes of weaving through the trees, we reached a near clearing overlooking one of the park's geothermal pools. We usually stop there, but that night we decided to keep going. Logan said he wanted to reach the far side of the pool, where the ground was smooth and sandy. We called it the beach, even though it wasn't one. That's when things started to get strange. As we hugged the water's edge, Mateo suddenly raised his hand and told us to look. On the far side of the clearing, a lone figure was stepping out of the trees. At first we thought it was another hiker, but the more we watched, the less it made sense. The person wasn't carrying gear, just dragging a heavy black bag behind them, the bottom scraping across the dirt. We froze. The shape of the bag sagged unnaturally, and the way the figure strained under its weight sent a cold wave through me. We stayed quiet, crouching low, just watching. The figure reached the pool's edge and crouched over the bag. He was fiddling with something. From where we stood, we couldn't tell what, and none of us wanted to get any closer. Before we could even decide what to do, Logan whispered, "Wait, look." 3 more people emerged from the trees, 2 of them dragging their own bags. The third carried a small inflatable raft folded over his shoulder. I swear my blood ran cold. They spoke to each other in low voices we couldn't hear, and one of them inflated the raft, steadying it while the others loaded a bag onto it. The first man climbed inside and paddled out towards the middle of the pool. We watched as he stopped in the center, and then the bag slid beneath the water and just disappeared. He paddled back to the shore. The process repeated, one bag at a time, sinking in the depths of Yellowstone. And then my phone rang. The loud chime tore through the silence, sharp and unnatural against the still night. I fumbled to mute it, but it was too late. The 4 figures froze, their heads turned slowly towards us. That was all it took. We bolted. Branches whipped against my arms and we tore through the woods, sprinting harder than I ever had in my life. Brent glanced behind us once and shouted, "They're following!" That sent us into a full-blown panic. The forest floor was slick, every step threatening to take us down. But we didn't stop. We cut back towards the trail, desperate to find the path that my backyard belonged to. My chest burned, my legs ached, but the sound of pursuit behind us, snapping branches, stomping feet, kept me going. Finally, the faint outline of my backyard fence came into view. Relief surged through me, but then I realized I couldn't remember where the gap was. I had cut holes in that fence a dozen times before, but in that moment, my mind went blank. We scrambled along the length of the fence, searching desperately. My lungs were on fire and my ears were ringing with blood pounding in my head. But then Alex shouted, "There, up ahead!" The opening. Salvation. We shoved each other through, stumbling into my yard as I helped Mateo over. I heard it, the distant snap of branches just in the yard behind us. They were close. Too close. We didn't wait. We ran all the way back to my house and burst through the back door, collapsing on the floor, gasping for air. My mom rushed down, terrified, while Logan, still pale, managed to stammer out what had happened. She called the police immediately. When officers arrived, they searched my property, and that's when they found it. Muddy footprints that were leading right up to the property. The police went into the park the next morning, and a few days later, news broke that rangers had recovered multiple bodies from the geothermal pool. It was everywhere. Local papers, TV, but no arrests were ever made. We moved not long after. My parents can't stand the thought that someone out there knew where we lived. Even now, years later, I sometimes wonder what would have happened if I hadn't silenced my phone in time, or worse, if we hadn't run. And to this day, I've never set foot in Yellowstone at night again.